All right. Good afternoon, or good afternoon. Well, sun's still up, so I guess I can almost get away with calling it afternoon, but it's actually evening time. So, good evening, everyone. I'm the chair of Legislative District 11 Democrats. Want to welcome you to our monthly uh, meeting. Um, so we got a lot of great information to share with you guys. On top of, we've got candidates who are running for various offices that we're going to hear from tonight. So without further ado, let's get this thing going here. All right. So if this is your first meeting with us, I just want to go over our meeting norms as we do in this virtual space. If this is your 100th, 1000th meeting, then you kind of know how the drill goes. So when it comes to cameras, we're pretty cool with cameras. If you want to turn them on, great. If you want it off, great. We just ask that if you are recognized to speak, please turn on your camera so we can see you while you're speaking. We also want to folks to kind of pay attention to that mute button. We want to make sure that button is muted, unless, like I said, you're recognized by myself, and then of course unmute and say your piece. If you have any questions or comments, please put that in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye out on the chat. So if there are any questions or any comments right now, we'll either answer in the chat or we'll just answer it through the meeting for the benefit of everyone. For those of you who are following along at home or would like to follow along at home, we have the meeting agenda. I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat right now. So you can go ahead and click on that and you'll be able to see our meeting agenda. And without further ado, let's get into our office reports. I'll go ahead and start off. Hey, so it's been a lot going on in the last time we all got together. So much stuff going on. We've ended the legislative session. There's been a whole lot of unpleasant, horrible coming out of the Supreme Court with many of their decisions, and yeah, kind of some wild stuff going on. But the thing is, we also have a lot of work to do and a lot of things to look forward to. One thing, of course, is we have, we're in the middle of the primary election, so ballots are out. If you haven't gotten your ballot, please check your mail. We have some information here I'll get to a little bit later in the meeting in case you haven't received your ballot and you've been expecting one. However, at this point, you should have your ballot in hand. You've made your choice. Make sure to either mail that ballot back or drop it off at a voting center, or take it straight to the tabulation center and turn in that ballot. Please remember to remind your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, to vote. Like I said, it's a primary election. It's important. All elections are important, so please make sure to do that. With that being said, of course, where the LD really gears up is when we move into the time period of the general election. And so right now we're putting together our plan and our I could say our strategy for this upcoming general election. The first thing we definitely need is we're going to need volunteerism. We're going to need volunteer from each of the PCs. Of course, people who, even if you're not a PC, Democrats, progressives, those who can volunteer to help out. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. This is our volunteer survey, so that we know kind of what everybody's kind of skill set is, or what they're kind of into doing in this type of space. We want to make sure that we can support that. If you're someone who loves to knock on doors, you love to canvas, we want to definitely make sure that we're putting you in the right, it's like that old saying, putting you in the right spot on the bus here. If you are someone who likes to do phone banking or text banking or writing postcards, we want to make sure that we're playing up to your strengths. But the thing is, like I said, we have a no wrong door approach when it comes to volunteerism, but we do need volunteers. We'll go ahead and drop that link in there. Please take a second to fill that out. That will be, have an idea of like where your skill set is, where your interests are. So as we're kind of putting out those calls to action for, our strategy here, we're contacting you directly, and you kind of know like, oh, hey, the call is coming. We're going to be doing postcards, and we're packing lit or what have you. So just to kind of go over just the opportunities that's going to be part of the strategy, and we're going to break down the strategy actually next month. But like I said, we got to kind of organize our people here first. But the opportunities that will be going on basically from now until November election day will be phone banking. So this will be, of course, calling everything from, making sure folks are, registered to vote, make sure they know that, who's on the ballot, to once we have, our nominees, so to speak, so folks will know who those people are and to make sure to, cast a ballot for those folks. We'll also have text banking, which pretty much works kind of the same way. Difference is you're texting. With our lit drops and lit drop prep, those are kind of course, hand in hand. We're going to have lots of literature. The LD is in the process of creating literature that will go out to, of course, support our candidates. Candidates will have literature as well that we're going to want to get out to the public. And of course, we'll do that through lit drops. If you guys remember 2020, we were, camped out in my garage, packing lit and people coming by and picking it up and things like that. So we've got a little bit more of a robust plan this time. We're going to be a little bit more regionalized. So it won't just be, just coming to my place to pick up lit. We're going to, of course, going to have a location for lit pickup that'll be in the eastern part of the LD. We'll have a location, of course, in the central part of the LD, which will be my house. And then we'll have a location in the west part of the LD. So we'll announce where that is and who will kind of be in charge of that. So you would contact, either pick up your literature or, help pack literature, things of that nature. Canvassing, knocking on doors, direct interaction with, voters. We know wins elections. For all the technology and all the, social media and the mailers and things like that, you still can't beat just having a conversation with someone face to face. So we're definitely going to need folks, they're going to be willing to go out and canvass, in our LD in order to, talk to folks, get them understanding, what the issues are and making sure that they're voting from the bottom of the ballot all the way to the top. If you're not quite, the knocking on the door type, we will need drivers. We'll need folks that will be willing to help, drive folks to different areas so they can, kind of carpool because gas is expensive and be able to knock on doors and lit drop. Tabling. This is something else. This is something we haven't really done a whole lot in the past. We definitely are going to, we're adding that to our strategy for this cycle is going to be tabling. And so we're going to be looking at events where there are lots of people that will be there so we can register voters. We can make sure that we can get lit out to them, get them, understand the issues and making sure that they're going to be voting from the bottom of the ballot to the top for, our Democratic candidates. Covered voter registration, of course, postcard writing. That's another really effective thing. We're going to have postcards where folks will maybe either mail them, drop them off. We want to definitely reach out to folks because like that handwritten postcard is another kind of form of contact that people really appreciate. It's not like kind of just the mass, printed type of thing, where it's kind of the mass mailer. They see it, they go, oh, hey, that's my neighbor. Or wow, this is really nice handwriting. Or hey, they wrote it to me. It's not like to the residents of. So another great strategy. And of course, the thing that is always important is folks just talking to your neighbors. All you guys who are PCs, or if you're just, in the, just in your area, PC, not a PC, doesn't matter. The thing is that just having those conversations with your neighbors, the mailbox or just talking to them and just saying, hey, you know what's going on with the election, what this candidate's about, what's your voting plan, those type of, hey, ballots have dropped. So the big thing is that we're going to need an all hands on deck because, we hear the phrase a lot that, this is the most important election of our, lifetime. Well, here's the thing. A lot of stuff is going to be a part of the midterm election. Our voting rights are going to be in the midterm election because let's just keep it 100. If Republicans either maintain control of the state legislature, if they get a foothold in in Congress, then voting rights is definitely going to be in jeopardy. We've already seen some of the legislation that has either was attempted to pass or has passed in this past legislative session that has negatively impacted voting rights. Education is on the ballot for the midterms. While yes, we did get increased funding for our schools in Arizona, we're not remotely near where we need to be. But on top of that, the profession of education is under attack. The concept of allowing individuals who are not fully trained, fully licensed, fully prepared to go into classrooms, as an educator, as someone who's worked in the field, that scares me. That doesn't address the underlying issue about why teachers are leaving the classroom or why individuals are choosing not to go in the profession. We're going to talk about vouchers here in a minute, but that's another big thing of like pulling money out of a system that is desperately, being squeezed for money, for funding, and then putting it, into private entities, and taking it out of our public schools. That's on the ballot. And of course, we got the big one, abortion. With the overturning of Roe v. Wade, a woman's right to an abortion, that, a woman's right to make the decisions regarding her reproductive health, all that's on the ballot. We live in a state where, we have territorial law that says that, abortions are illegal no matter the circumstance. We have an attorney general who's more than happy to, go old school when it comes to, citing territorial law, which that kind of blows my mind. That's another conversation, to deny women that right. And so again, the individuals that we elect to office are going to play a role in, our, civic, our civil rights, in a many different areas. So like I said, this is what's important. Voters may want to talk about a lot of other things. They may want to talk about President Biden. They want to talk about Kirsten Sinema. Here's the thing: we can have that conversation in December. I'm more than willing to have that conversation in December. We can talk about, how we feel the president's doing, how, our feelings on Senator Sinema, but you know what? They're not on the ballot. Let's worry about, what we need to do to make sure that, we're in a good place when we're having that conversation in December, not worrying about, oh, great, what happens next? When's the other shoe going to drop? So, like I said, please, fill out that survey. Very, very, very quick. We'll drop that in the chat here in a few moments, so you can do that. Along the lines of what we're going to do with our volunteerism, we do have a couple of roles within the LD that we're looking to fill. We're looking for someone who would be willing to be our communications chair. This is a position where you would, manage like our social media, be a part of like the design and publication of our weekly newsletter. Of course, we do have a webmaster, Nick Rouse, who's been amazing. He's been working really hard to get our website up and running, and he is like putting the finishing touches on it. It's going to be amazing. I've been seeing previews as he's with his work with it, so it's going to be a great website once we get that launched. And also, MCDP has a really great committee. It's called the Social Media and Communications SMAC committee for short. They're a really great group of folks who are doing the same work in other LDs, where it's a lot of idea sharing. It's all about different strategy and techniques. So, for anyone who's interested in doing this, even if you're not, well versed in all the stuff on the list, we've got folks who can help you, and you've got a lot of resources to expand your knowledge base. The next one is going to be a really huge one. This is our van chair. This is a big one because a lot of the ways we break down the list of who our voters are, how we set up canvases, kind of goes through the van system. And so for many of you guys, when you get your walk list to get reelected as PCs or become elected PCs, this was the platform we're using to get that information. And so as we're going to really be ramping up a lot of the work when it comes to van and just using that, we're going to need somebody who's going to have to own that project. And like I said, van is a robust database system, if you're familiar with database systems. But here's the thing: is don't freak out. We can get you fully trained to be comfortable enough to do the job. And of course, this is one of those things where it's a little bit of an experience thing, but we're just not going to, give you access and wish you luck. You'll definitely have support, as you're, learning to utilize the system. Last but not least is our voter registration committee liaison. MCDP has a really amazing voter registration committee, and what they do is they work with each LD in order to organize voter registration drives. We've had actually several in LD 27 over the last couple of months. And so what's really awesome about this group is that they really lean on the people in a particular LD to know the best way to approach it. So they're not going to assume to know like our district as well as we do. And so what they ask for is having kind of a liaison. So if they said, hey, we'd like to do a voter registration drive, where's a good location? Where's good foot traffic? Are there any like things we need to know? And of course, another part of that is of course getting our volunteers, our folks, to be a part of those voter registration jobs. Because the thing is, you can't win elections if you don't have registered voters. And so, we got to constantly make sure that, folks are registered, they're getting, they're on the active early voting list, which should still be Pebble, but that's a whole other conversation. Uh, we want to make sure that, we're, doing that outreach to get people engaged in the process. So if you're interested in any of these committees, to kind of chair it up, get a little bit more involved in how we operate, please reach out to me. I'll be happy to, have a deeper conversation with you on the topic. And, definitely, would love to have you join the team in that capacity. All right, one last thing, because I know I got a bit of a longer than normal report here, but this, of course, is dropped today. As you guys are aware, a very unfortunate bill came out of the end of the session. It was the ESA vouchers, the private school vouchers, basically is what it is. And while in 2018 we the voters said no, we don't want vouchers, apparently there are those in the state legislature who don't seem to hear very well, so they passed it again. If you're not familiar with what vouchers are, basically what they are is allows individuals to take public money and use that public money in order to send their child to a private school. I believe it also, there's language that also kind of allows funding for either what's called micro schools, which are basically homeschooling as well. The big issue with something like this is that public money, public education, if someone wants to send their child to a private school, then that is definitely their right. However, they should worry about the financial implications of that. Well, with that being said, Save Our Schools Arizona, they are working very, very quickly to get a referendum on the ballot. This would overturn this piece of legislation, or I guess this law that has now been passed. They have to collect just north of 118,000 signatures by September 24th in order for this to make the ballot. We'll drop the link to the website. They're looking for volunteers. They're looking for people to sign this thing. They're looking for folks to, help do this, because a referendum is not easy. That is a lot of signatures. And, even though it sounds like September is not that far away. And so it's going to be really important that, they have all the support that they can get to get this thing on the ballot, so the voters for yet another time can send the message that we don't want vouchers. So please, if you can, get some petitions to circulate within your network. If you can volunteer, if you can, be a part of this effort, please sign up to do this. And I'll throw one other thing there, is that the due date is actually, they have to have it, before September 24th, is my birthday. So if you're looking for an early birthday present for me, help get vouchers off the let's get that on the ballot so we can vote it out. That'd be a great birthday present. I mean, I know it's kind of self-serving in that regard, but it'll help everybody. But do it for the kids. With that being said, I've said a lot of crazy stuff, so I'm going to hand it over to our first vice chair, Dave Braun. I believe Dave's on, because I saw him pop on. You there, Dave? Oh, you're still muted there.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Very good. I'm going to be real short because I know you have a lot of speakers tonight. You discussed vouchers. Red for Ed, or the educational lobby won't be able to get that issue on the referendum. You know what? Actually, they probably will. They probably will get. They only need something a bit over 100,000 signatures. And actually, I think they will get it on the November ballot. So it'll be a referendum to hold the law. And then undoubtedly, at some point, they're going to start an actual initiative, because otherwise the legislature won't, unless we actually get one of the branches. It's going to be hard to do with this year, to be real blunt. I've been watching the January 6th hearing. I expect within a couple of months, if Merrick Garland has has some huevos, an indictment of Donald Trump. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Dave. And I'll just throw out here, it's like, it seems like, I was caught the news here before the meeting. It sounds like the state of Georgia is trying to, get first crack at Trump and, his circle with, what happened with the Georgia election. So we will see what happens. All right. So let's go. I have some notes from our second vice chair, Jennifer Rouse. Some of our board, they're actually attending the Levine Town Council meeting, so they weren't able to join us, but they left some some messages for the good of the order. Jennifer wanted me to share a great opportunity that is for our young folks. Is called the Congressional App Challenge. What this is something that happens. I'm understanding it happens every year, I believe. And what it is, the students are it's just for computer science, for coding. And so students get to design an application, an app, and the winner actually gets their app to be included in a display at the U.S. House of Representatives. So what's awesome is every congressional district gets a winner. So for our district CD3, we would, a young person could potentially win this and get this, their application to be, shown off at the Capitol. So we'll drop the link for how to apply. But if you know a young person who is dabbling in this type of stuff, or they're working towards having a career in app development, this would be a great opportunity for them. It'd be awesome to have somebody, a young person from LD11 to be the winner of something like this. So definitely please spread the word. All right. From our secretary, just, big thing is like, hey, we've got a lot of ways to stay in communication with us. If you are not getting our email and you signed up at some point, please, check your spam folder. Sometimes our emails go in the spam folder. It's just a function of just, how this stuff works these days. However, you can follow us on, all the major social media platforms if you do that type of stuff. And again, we've got a website is almost done. It's going to be dropping soon. So that'll be another way to, know what's going on in the wonderful LD11. All right, treasurer, is Shams, the son of Shams is on or not? Okay, I'm not seeing Shams. Yes, she's at the meeting. So with that being said, I will go through the treasurer's report here. So like I said, we're doing good on money, but could always do better. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Just so you know, our total income for the previous month was $216. That brings us to, we had expenses of $461.15. We'll kind of break down what those expenses, what that was spent on. Of course, we started the month with about $1,764.62, and we ended the month at $1,681.86. We did get about $216 in online donations through ActBlue. As always, we appreciate your contributions to the LD. Like I said, all this stuff happens, based on you guys' wonderful contributions. And as we, move forward with the election cycle, we'll be, utilizing those funds to, help promote not only promote the LD, the Democratic Party, but, our candidates moving forward. For our expenses, I'm just kind of zeroing kind of some of the big stuff. We did get our new LD banner. If you guys have seen us at public events, remember the LD27 banner? Well, since we're not LD27 anymore, we got a new LD11 banner. If you made it to Juneteenth at Eastlake Park, you got to see it. It's really cool. We'll have it at other public events because it's awesome, and we also want to use it to promote the LD. Additionally, another major expenditure was we did do $100 donation at the MCDP summer convention. So it was actually like 103.45 because it was an ACLU fee. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're doing. Of course, we'll be doing some. Oh, we have another one which was our printing fees. That was part of the banner and a lot of our lit that we did for kind of for the primary and for the Juneteenth event. Of course, we'll be doing more printing stuff as we get into the general election season. All right, and as always, if you would like to donate to LD11, we have the link here. We'll go ahead and we'll drop that in the chat. I also encourage you to sign up for reoccurring donations as well, where you can just have a set amount come out each month, and you're a kind of regular contributor, which many people do, and we appreciate it. All right, Sergeant at Arms, Randolph, you are up.
Yeah, I have no report, but I just want to say I did get out and vote. My wife and I, we took our ballots to the 510 South 3rd Avenue. They put a gate around there, but they still allow you to drive through, drop it off in the box, and drive out. And I got some material in the mail, material on my door, and it's like, I voted. I hope everybody does too. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Randolph. Yes, please vote, and and like I said, there are lots of options. One other thing we do want to let you guys know is that election poll workers and observers. If you're not familiar with what these are, this is a really important aspect of our election system, is having volunteers who are willing to. Well, actually, with poll workers, you get paid. I don't believe observers don't get paid. That's a volunteer position. But the thing is, we countywide, we need like about 2,300 or so people to work, these elections, of course, with the primary election and then, of course, the general election. These are really important aspects, because I'm going to tell you right now, the Republicans are signing up poll observers left and right to make sure that stuff that doesn't actually happen doesn't happen. Yeah, you kind of know where I'm going with this. So we need to make sure that we have Democrats there as well. The poll worker and poll observer job is really important, because there are a lot of people who vote in person, and for somebody, this is their first time doing something like this, is their first experience, and sometimes voting can be very intimidating. And a good poll worker and poll observer can make sure that person is able to cast a ballot without any shenanigans or any weird thing, or being turned away because somebody didn't do the reading the night before, or something like that. So if you are interested in helping protect democracy, be a part of the election system, there's some opportunities in order to sign up to get trained and sign up to be a poll observer, or apply to be a poll worker. Additionally, there is an opportunity to be part of the hand audit that will take place on August 6th. This will be after the primary, to, of course, confirm those ballots and things like that. So we will drop those links in the chat. So if you are interested, or if you have more questions, definitely reach out. We'll be happy to kind of break down what it is. But these are all great, opportunities to make sure that, our election systems, which have always been good and always been accurate, continue to stay that way, and we don't have any like weird shenanigans going on because there's a bunch of weird people in places they probably really shouldn't be. And I'll just leave it at that. All right, let's talk. We got some electeds on the call here. So if you have any currently elected officials who would like to give us any updates, anything that's going on, please unmute and do so.
Chair, I'll go first. Hello, LD11 Democrats. This is Marcelino Quiñones, your state representative, one of your two state representatives. Session ended 2 weeks ago, and I have to tell you that as a Democrat, I'm really proud of what we were able to accomplish, given that we were in the minority in both the Senate and the House. And so I'm going to list off some numbers for all of you to sort of see what both Leader Bolding and Leader Rios were able to accomplish in collaboration with all of us Democrats. $525 million added to the education base. That's on top of the base, $525 million. $100 million going to special education. That's on top of the base. Our universities are getting $80 million so that they can help recruit, retain, and conduct research. Additionally, $12 million specifically for Promise scholarships. So some of you might have known this, but prior to the legislature, I was at Arizona State University, and these Promise scholarships, what they do is they're geared towards students who come from a certain level of income. So $12 million to support those students so that college is accessible. The Arizona Housing Trust Fund is going to get $60 million. The foster care kinship stipend has historically been at $75. It's now at $300. All of the state employees received a raise. There are $500 million scheduled for infrastructure. The infrastructure directly impacting our district is by the airport. The Arizona Arts Commission also received $5 million. And then, so that's the budget. I think a lot of victories for us there. It's not perfect, but a lot of progress, a lot of our issues. And then also, the last thing that we did this session was pass the $1.4 billion water bill. As many of you know, Arizona is currently experiencing a drought. The lakes are at record low levels. And so this $1.4 billion over the next 3 years is going to be used in order to create conservation efforts and then also augmentation efforts. So that's how the session concluded. The one thing I'd like to add, and if there aren't any questions, is Chair Brown talked about the ESA voucher expansion. You'd be proud of all of your Democrats who are on the floor and who spoke out against it and voted against it. One of the things that I said, in addition to it not being the voters' will and the fact that individuals who take advantage of vouchers for the most part can afford to send their students to private schools, I mentioned that. But I think the most disheartening thing about that voucher bill is the fact that it was dropped at the end without going through the process. And so I did raise that question on the floor in terms of how are we respecting the process if we're dropping bills at the very end without input. So if there are any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. I'll include my address, but other than that, that's the update from the legislature.
Okay, Representative Quinones, thank you. You do have a question, however, just looking at the phrase in the question, I think it'll probably be a little bit more appropriate to be answered as part of your time as a candidate. So if you'll probably see it in the chat. If not, we'll make sure that gets asked during that
I just
section.
saw it. I just saw it, but I'll answer that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other electeds? I'm trying to see here. Okay, not seeing any other. I do see one. Sorry. Alexandra, you are currently a member of the Water Board. So if you could give us a quick update in your capacity in that elected office, that'd be much appreciated.
Sure, I'd be happy to. First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm just always inspired, at the people who devote their time and come out and volunteer and participate. So I was elected in 2016 to the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board of Directors. It's a 15-member board that oversees the Central Arizona Project Canal, our Colorado River supply, which is 40% of our water supply here for Phoenix and Tucson, and an update. I mean, you've probably been reading about it in the papers, but we are facing unprecedented challenges. Drought, 22-year-long drought. It's the worst drought in 1,200 years. We're seeing the impacts of climate change on the river. The upper river in Colorado and Wyoming is where the snowpack is, and even in winters where we're seeing like 80 to 90% average snowpack, we're getting closer to 50% of average inflows into the river. So that's why that, and then the river is over allocated, and we continue to have a lot of growth in this region. So with all of those things, we are facing a a situation where we're going to have to cut 2 to 4 million acre feet from the river, from the demands. And just to put that in perspective, Arizona's entire allocation is 2.8 million acre feet. So the 2 to 4 million acre feet is shared among the 7 basin states and Mexico, but it's a huge challenge. And we are right now in the middle of negotiations to try and come up with a way to share in the pain of those cutbacks. And I guess that's what we're working on all the time right now. And so I guess, is this like an elected report and then we're going to do candidates after that? So I
Correct.
saved that bit for later. Okay. Well, and I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has one.
So if anyone has any questions regarding like current issues with our water supply or anything that goes along with this role, please, either unmute and ask away or drop it in the chat.
And I'll put my contact information in the chat too. You can always email me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't see any other electeds on the call, so we're going to move into our special guest point of the meeting. So just so everyone's kind of up to speed with how we do this thing. So we have candidates who are running for office. As you know, LD 27 and contested primaries do not endorse specific candidates. Any information that we put out regarding a candidate is simply for information only. Candidates were all candidates that are running for office received communications from the LD in order to invite them to a meeting in order to speak at as a candidate for office. They were informed they were given 3 minutes to speak, and then we would do about a minute and a half, basically up to the discretion of the chair for the most part. Any questions from the audience? If you do have questions, we ask that you drop them in the chat, and I'll either ask them on your behalf or I'll just ask you to unmute and just ask the question depending on what the question is. As for the order, it bases the order of the folks who replied back and said, hey, I would like to attend this meeting on this date. And so that's kind of how we determine the order. So with that being said, our first individual is Janelle Cavero. She is a candidate for State Senate LD 11. The floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces again. I'm Janelle Cavero. I'm running for Arizona State Senate here in South Mountain, Laveen, and Guadalupe. I just threw in the chat my website if you haven't taken a look at it while I'm speaking, and you feel free to ask any questions. But I think most of you heard my story, which is, after working for 25 years in federal government affairs and being a proud precinct committee person like yourselves for the last 15 years and in the Rozier district for the last 6, it comes down to, after COVID, reprioritizing. And, my children are 7 and 8 years old and times have changed. And now more than ever, I feel that the issue is going to be at the state legislature. And I wanted to share with you tonight, as most of you have known the story of my background and, growing up in an immigrant household with a father who was a Vietnam vet and a mother who struggled to get her degree when I was 12 years old. That experience of hard work really matters. And as I go to the doors today, I wanted to share a story with each one of you. It's been a fight. We've had a race over the last 5 months. It's unprecedented to have a campaign in such a short time and share with folks not only your message, but get to know every single voter in the district. But I want to share one story with you that I think it should keep in the forefront, which is the issue that we've had to deal with Roe versus Wade. Everybody's talking about abortion and the right to choose. And today, going to the doors, it's not just about having the choice of an individual has the right of, their own reproductive health. But there are more issues that stand in front of us. And one of them is Lisa, who works at Safeway. And she, had shared her story that her colleague couldn't get her chemotherapy anymore. Because of the law, there are medicinal issues that impact or can cause a woman who's pregnant to lose her child. And so because of this simple law that's passed on the federal level, we now have folks who are not just struggling with the decision on reproductive health, but making decisions on their own health care. So it's expanding and it's greater, more than just
1 minute.
product. And so I wanted to share with you that, I am a candidate who believes in individual choice. I am a candidate who believes in public education. And I'll fight more now than ever for just our community on both diversity, accountability, and opportunities for our district. I hope you happy to answer any questions. And hopefully if you don't get to me today, you can send me an email. I threw it in the chat, and happy to answer more, because it's a relationship. And it's a relationship between me, you, voters, and our elected officials. And I'm hoping to build that today. So thanks so much and for having the opportunity tonight.
All right, thank you, Janelle. I'm gonna go ahead and we have one question already, so I'll go ahead and ask this one on behalf of Kathleen. And this is really for all the other candidates on the call. You're gonna get the same question, but we'll ask it. But I would like to ask, I would like each candidate for the legislature to indicate that they will vote for women's right to choose. I want a specific answer.
As for myself, yes, 100%. As the endorsee of Planned Parenthood and the National Organization of Women and many other women organization groups, I'm proud to vote for a woman's right to choose, and more importantly, an individual's right to choose.
All right, do we have any other questions for Janelle? I'm doing my teacher 5-second wait time. All right, thank you, Janelle. As always, if you guys have questions for her, she's dropped her information in the chat. Feel free to, of course, shoot her an email, ask her question, things of that nature. All right, next up on our list is Marcelino Quinones. He is currently the representative for LD 11 to the House. He's also a candidate running for State House. Marcelino, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. LD 11 again, hello again. Let me just get to the question at hand and then provide some examples. So the short answer is yes, I will protect an individual's right to choose what is best for their bodies. That includes an abortion. I believe that healthcare is a personal decision that is made best between themselves, their physician, and their families. Bottom line. This year in session, we did have the bill that was brought up to the floor that would restrict and prevent abortions after 15 weeks. After 15 weeks. On the floor, I stood up and I said that I was in disagreement with that. And the same thing that I said to you is what I said to every member in the chamber, that those decisions, especially in abortion, is the most personal of decisions. And I don't think that any government should have any interference whatsoever. I then proceeded to vote no on the bill. So I just want to put that out at the very forefront. And the voting record is there, and my remarks on the floor are also there for to be observed. Being appointed in December was an extraordinary privilege for me. So thank you for helping me get to the appointment process. I hit the ground running. So I walked in there and I did my best to learn the process and to establish relationships. And I'm really pleased with the way the entire session turned out. Earlier, I mentioned to you a number of dollars that we were able to secure in this budget that are of Democrat priorities. I'm really proud of those. Additionally, I'm proud of the fact that I made the office as accessible as possible. I invited individuals to come down to the Capitol so they could see what it was like and so that they could be a part of the process. I want to continue to do that. On Fridays, when we did not have any session, I took Fridays to go visit schools because I think it's important for young people and young people at heart to see their elected officials and for them to have an opportunity to understand what the process looks like and to talk about leadership. Additionally, as an educator, part of the reason why I was not able to come into our Wednesday meetings February through May is because I'm still an educator.
So 1 minute.
Thank you, Patrick. So as an educator and as a legislator who happens to be an educator, that is going to be of my priority. I think moving forward, we need to do Thank you, Kathy. That's a great question too. Moving forward, and it's right here, it's on the notes because I was going to get to that. So we're on the same page. Specifically moving forward, one of the things that I want to work on is expanding voter rights. This session, we had over 100 bills that were attacking the voters. I want to get rid of those. I want to work on automatic voter registration so that if as soon as an individual turns 18 and they don't have any felonies, they should automatically be registered to vote. Additionally, I want to make sure that you don't have to have 100 different IDs when you show up to the polls. When Kathleen says, I'm Kathleen, it should be Kathleen, and then Kathleen should be able to vote. So I want to work on that. And then I also want to work on addressing the unsheltered population. We have a number of residents, particularly within our district, who are experiencing homelessness. I want to work on that. I'm proud of the work that I've done, and I hope I can count on your support so you can send me back to the Capitol. And I'll include all of my contact information there earlier. I know
And that's your time.
Thank you.
All right. We got the question from Kathy answered. Are there any other questions for Marcelino? Okay, questions going once, going twice. All right, thank you, Marcelino.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a candidate for Maricopa County Attorney, Julie Gunnigal. She's here to talk with us. So Julie, you have the floor.
Well, hey, y'all. It's nice to see everybody here. Who's ready to flip the county attorney's office for the first time in 42 years? Yeah, me too. So for those who haven't met me yet, hi, I'm Julie Gunnigal. I'm a wife. I'm a mom of 3 school-aged children, and I'm a Notre Dame trained attorney going on her 17th year of practice. I know most of you, and I know that you know that I ran for this office last cycle because I believed we needed to get the corruption out of our county attorney's office and out of law enforcement. We need to make sure that we are funding our public schools and not our private prisons. And we have a lot of work to do to make sure that the wealthy, the powerful, the well-connected, that they don't experience a different standard of justice than you or I. And you know that I'm also in this fight this time for a very different reason. I am in this fight now because of you, because when the special election was called, so many of the people on this call right now were lighting up my phone saying, we still believe, do you? And in 21 hours, you got me on the ballot faster than any county candidate in history. That was you. Thank you. So briefly, here's what we're doing. We are working right now to make sure that people know the beautiful things we could have if we had a reform-minded county attorney, how we could fight corruption, how we could prioritize those crimes that matter, crimes that target women, children, and our seniors, and that we can use this office to protect reproductive rights. And I'll just give you the highlights of what we're up to. First, we have a strong anti-public corruption message. We need to make sure that folks like Ducey appointees and Charles Ryan in particular experience the same standard of justice as everyone else. We need to make sure that our elected officials play by the rules, and we need to get out that legacy of Joe Arpaio style discrimination out of this office. And we can do that if we have someone who's committed to reform. Next, we need to make sure that we are treating gun violence, mental health, and addiction as the public health crises that they are. We need to focus on the root causes of these issues. We need to make sure that individuals have access to real treatment, which is not something that is happening now. What's happening now is folks are being funneled into our private prison system. And just to give you a real brief glimpse of what that looks like, it looks like folks like Michael Calhoun. He's one of the plaintiffs on the ACLU suit. He's somebody who's experienced addiction. He has a rap sheet of low-level possession charges. And when he was caught
1 minute.
$20 worth of drugs, the county attorney said he needs to go to prison for 9.5 years, best and final offer. That's $250,000 of your money that's flowing into our prison systems and not into rehabilitation systems that make us safer. So I'm running to do all of that. And also in this moment, we can't not talk about the fact that this is the office that would prosecute abortions. And we need to make sure that not now, not ever, we will never use your public safety dollars to prosecute and invade people's private lives. So you can learn more about me at gunnigal2022.com. I also want to make sure you know we are working on Patrick's early birthday present. We've been out. Sorry, I'm glad you can't smell me through the computer. We've been canvassing, making sure our message goes out, and we want you on our team. We are out canvassing every single day. We are carrying SOS petitions, and I want your help. I'm going to drop my my site into the chat if you have any questions. And in the meantime, I will see you again, LD11. Thank you so much for your love and continued support. And let's go get them and flip this office for the first time in 42 years.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Don't run off just yet because we got some questions. I'm going to ask you one, just like I said, share privilege here. The Maricopa County Attorney's Office has, for as long as I can remember, which is a long time, has had a strategy of stacking charges, basically just browbeating people to, plead out in situations where they just shouldn't have. You, as our Maricopa County Attorney, what is your stance on that? And just, what is your feeling on that? How will you do things differently?
Yeah, I mean, we need to stop stacking charges. So first of all, just so everybody recognizes, your county attorney's office is your lead prosecutor. This is the third largest prosecutor's office in the entire nation. And Patrick's exactly right. We have a legacy of mass incarceration that is driven by charge stacking. We're the fourth largest incarcerator in the country, eighth largest in the world. And it means that we are funneling $1.5 billion into our prison system. If we had a reform-minded county attorney, we will not need to wait for the legislature to get their act together on criminal legal system reform. This is an issue of discretion that a reform-minded county attorney can take on. And we're going to take it on by making sure that when every case is charged, we are not charging enhancements and stacking charges just because we can. We are starting with the end in mind, and that we're going to make a recommendation that's in line with taxpayer values. And at every single sentencing recommendation, we're going to tell the taxpayer the cost of incarceration that the prosecutor's office is suggesting.
All right, thank you. We've got a question from Dave Braun. Dave, I'm gonna have you ask the question because I'm not quite following I'll have you ask the question.
Am I on?
Yep, we can hear you.
Very good. Julie, will you consider there are heat-related deaths a couple of years ago?
Absolutely. So first, so everybody recognizes when we talk about people who have experienced that dual standard of justice, the wealthy, the powerful, the police, the well-connected, corporations, and in particular APS fall into that separate standard of justice where nobody has looked into these sorts of either negligent or intentional homicides perpetrated against those who have the least in our community. So yes, that is absolutely something that I will consider.
All right, thank you. And we got one more question. It's from Kathy Warren. What are your positions on separate drug courts?
Oh, good question. So specialty courts are particularly effective. What I want to see here in Maricopa County is I want to see increased reliance on diversion programs, especially pre-adjudication programs. And I want to see an expanded criteria for who can qualify, in particular for drug courts. I also want to implement several specialty courts that we already know that are working in our community. For example, Maricopa County has the second highest concentration of veterans in the entire country. It is such a large population that we have 2 separate veterans yards on our prison just to incarcerate people who have served our country. We know what works when it comes to intervening in justice-involved veterans, and that means that a separate separate veterans treatment court that is pre-adjudication. We already have these operating in our municipal fields. We can take that and transplant that to felonies. So yeah, there's a lot that we can do. Specialty courts are part of the answer. I also want to see diversion and deflection beefed up in our county.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Always good to see you. Just so you guys are aware, Julie's the candidate. She doesn't have a primary opponent. As you guys know, she set like the land speed record for getting on the ballot. For those of you who have been a longtime resident of Maricopa County like myself, I would be proud to have a county attorney that doesn't make me just roll my eyes and consider other places to live. So let's get her elected. Thank you, Julie. And I will say good luck on the campaign trail, but you got this. So thank you.
Thank you all so much.
All right, so this brings us to Yelena Aguilar. She is a candidate for the Central Arizona Water Conservation District. Yelena, you have the floor.
Thank you, Patrick. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to you and LD11 for this opportunity to share a little bit about myself and my campaign. I'm actually running for, it's a mouthful, the Water Conservation District Board with Alex, Ben. There's 4 Democrats that are running together. And there are 5 seats and 14 people filed. So we definitely need to share and spread the word about our campaign, and not just mine, but Ben and Alex's, who are the incumbents. But my name is Ilenia. I voted for the first time in 2016, formally undocumented. So I voted for the first time for a woman, for myself. I currently serve on the school board. I'm serving my 2nd term. It is an honor to serve my community, my school district, the school district where my kids attend. And I have been working in the renewable water technology space, which I've learned a lot about water, about the lack of drinking water in spaces like the tribal communities, Native American reservations such as Navajo Nation, and areas along the border like the colonias, which are unincorporated areas where people similar to the Navajo Nation don't have access to clean drinking water. Sometimes they don't have access to electricity either. But with that work that I've done professionally, I've been able to just learn a lot about the issues impacting Arizona as far as like contamination, water access, and of course the Colorado River, which is what this board is all about. So I'm very lucky that I get to run on this slate with the 2 incumbents, Ben and Alex, who've done an amazing job. And I truly admire them. I met them in 2016 when I was running for the school board. And we've been in touch since then. And when this opportunity came, I decided that I decided that it was the right time and that I was really passionate about water issues, especially those impacting communities of color. And we know that, you know, the Central Arizona Project, the water that it delivers, it goes into agriculture, municipalities, and tribal communities. So that's the 3 areas that I'm very interested in. And also, we know how important water is, as Alex shared earlier during her update on what's currently going on. We know that we are going to have to make some very tough decisions. And I feel that making tough decisions on the school board when we had to close schools, reopen schools, mask mandates, really prepared me not for like the future of what's going to happen, but just allowed me to become a better leader and a better understanding of the community and what the needs are and how to make decisions that are right for all. So with that, I want to continue to ensure that we Arizonans have water and that we protect the Colorado River. Thank you very much. And I hope to get your vote in November. Ilenia Aguilar.
All right, thank you very much. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna take chair privilege here. I do have a question. This will be for Alex as well, but so it's really to both of you guys. We keep hearing about this whole thing is about desalination as a way to address our water crisis. I am not well versed on this particular topic. I remember it from like high school biology and I think a YouTube video and something my kids said during dinner. But is that actually a solution? Is it kind of like a bait and switch? What are some like solutions that we, as Arizonans we can do to address our water situation?
Yeah, so I'm sure you've read it. The governor has talked about it, desalination, augmentation. So those are all solutions, right? They're not the ultimate solution, and Alex can go more into detail about how they work, but augmentation, desalination, conservation, and reuse are, all part of the solution, but augmentation is very, very, very costly, and so is desalination. For augmentation, there has to be, like, the governor has had conversations and talked about bringing water from the Sea of Cortez, which is Mexico, and there haven't been any conversations. Mexico hasn't agreed to that, and it would be extremely, extremely costly to do that. But I do believe that all of those are part of the ultimate solution. I think that more conservation, maybe some regulations, that's really where we're headed to. But I do believe that all of those are part of the solution, and Alex can answer more in depth.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions for Ilenia? All right, thank you. As always, best of luck with the campaign. So our final candidate for, at least for now, part of this session is going to be Alex Arboleda. She's running for the same, she's running for one of the seats on the water board. So we'll go ahead and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patrick and LD11. And it's great to give you guys the update, which kind of presented the huge challenges that we're facing. As I said, I was elected in 2016, and it's been really an honor to serve on this board. It's my favorite thing I've ever done professionally. It's not paid, but the issues are so important and meaningful for, you know, the future of the state, for our children. And so I'm hoping that you'll all give me another opportunity to continue to do this. A little bit about me and my background. I grew up in Tucson, spent a lot of time in the outdoors. I loved camping, and we had horses, so horseback riding, and I just really gained appreciation for natural resources and how important water is in this arid environment that we live in. And then I went to Stanford undergrad, and I came back to Tucson, University of Arizona for law school, and I took a course on water law that was just really fascinating and highlighted how connected water is to our history and our future and how important it is. So then I met my husband there. We have 2 kids who are now 21 and 18. And we, right after law school, we moved to Phoenix. So I've been practicing as a water and natural resources attorney for about 20 years up here in the Phoenix area. And so I think that what I can bring to the board is, in addition to, you know, the 6 years of experience just being on the board, I've learned a lot, and I've been through a lot: the drought contingency plan, the 500+ plan, the closure of the Navajo generating station, which was the 3rd largest emitter of carbon in the country, and replacing that with more renewable energy, solar. So I bring that experience, and then also just my background as a water and natural resources attorney. You know, I have a pretty good understanding of the law of the river and some of this technical, complicated stuff that we deal with when we're talking about water. In terms of what I'd like to accomplish in my next term, I think we've done a really good job of short-term solutions. We've been faced with some pretty big challenges, and enacting the drought contingency plan was
1 minute.
We had to bring a lot of stakeholders together and get agreement to do these voluntary reductions. And in fact, Arizona left about 800,000 acre-feet voluntarily in Lake Mead to keep us from the lower level shortages that will impact cities and tribes. However, I think that in my next term, I'd like to see us focus on long-term solutions where we permanently reduce some of our water use. And I think Elenia had a great answer. It's going to take a little bit of everything. So we need to do a lot more with conservation. We need to do a lot more with water reuse. We can focus on new technologies for example, gravity flow drip irrigation to reduce the amount of water that agriculture needs to grow the same amount of crops. And then I think desalination may be part of the solution for the long term. It's not going to be a short-term solution. It's very expensive. Whether it makes sense for Arizona, you know, I've seen it work in Israel. It works in California. Whether it makes sense for Arizona, it's going to be a question of balancing different interests and how much it costs. But it's something that we're considering.
All right, Alex, thank you. That's your time here. One of my questions you did answer with the desalination. Does anyone else have any questions for Alex regarding, you know, really anything related to her office?
I do.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
This is especially in response to I think it's a scandal that we've allowed state land to be leased to the Saudi Arabians to grow huge amounts of alfalfa. I don't care about the alfalfa. I care about the huge amount of water that they're using. We've got a groundwater irrigation law from the Bruce Babbitt administration in Maricopa and Pima counties, which is very effective. I think that should be imposed statewide. What is your reaction to that?
Well, thank you, Dave, for the question. I agree with you that it is one of the most serious problems that we are facing in Arizona is the fact that the groundwater code does not apply in most of the state. And so most of the rural areas, you can sink a well and you can pump as much groundwater as you want. And as you mentioned, in the areas under the groundwater code that was adopted in 1980, we have restrictions on groundwater pumping in places called active management areas, which are really the more urban areas like Phoenix and Tucson, Prescott. And so those have been effective, but outside of the active management areas, there's not even a reporting requirement. You don't have to get a permit. And so it's not just the Saudi Arabians, but that was highlighted in the article, and it just, growing alfalfa and then shipping it abroad. But anybody can come in and drill a well and have a farm that is growing, whatever. And it's not, I think agriculture is important, and I think that food security is important, and I think I support grow local, but we have to be really cognizant of our water resources, and those aquifers, those are finite supplies, and we need to protect them, and we need to protect them for our future. So we really need to change that policy. Unfortunately, CAP can't really do much about it, but that's definitely something our legislature could do. And in fact, our executive branch, our Department of Water Resources, could do something about designating active management areas too. So I think we need to be involved and vocal about this, and it's a problem we need to solve.
All right. Thank you for the question, Dave. Alex, thank you for your response to that question, as well as your response to all the questions. I'm going to ask this question. It's really for both water board candidates. And this is kind of, I think it was early in the chat, just so people are aware. Are you guys on the primary ballot, or are you guys going to be on the general election ballot?
Only the general.
Yeah, so we're a nonpartisan race. And as Elenia said, you can vote for up to 5. There's 15 members on our board, but it's staggered 6-year terms. So 5 spots open up every 2 years. But since it's nonpartisan, we don't have a primary. So we're only on the ballot in November, the general election, and it won't have a D next to our names. So you just have to remember our names. And I put the 4 Democrats who are running, I typed our names into the chat box.
All right, appreciate that, and we'll make sure our folks know who the D's are on the board. All right, thank you very much. All right, everybody. So we're kind of in the home stretch of tonight's meeting here. What I would like to do here is I'm going to make I think actually 2 quick plugs here. The first one is, again, volunteerism. We're going to need everybody to help do the work to get Democrats elected from the bottom to the top of the ballot. We're talking about school board, we're talking about water board, we're talking about state ledge, we're talking about Congress, we're talking about governor, we're talking about attorney general. There's a lot of there are a lot of important races that'll be happening in November. step one, folks, make sure you get your ballots, you vote, you get your ballots in for this primary. But then again, but like I said, we still have that general election. So if you haven't done so already, please use our link here so we can capture that information so that we can help get finalize our strategy for this upcoming election so that we can turn out voters in LD11. Just so for those of you who love statistics, in the 2020 election, LD11 had a voter turnout in the general election of 2020 at about 70%. That's huge for this particular area. Historically, we've kind of hovered in the 50s, 60%. These are in presidential elections. That number has traditionally been lower in midterm elections. We usually sometimes hover like in the 40, maybe 50%. That is just not going to cut it. With the number of Democrats who live in LD11, with the number of voters who live in this district, we could be the margin of victory for a lot of races. I'm going to give you one more statistic. Remember 2020? Remember Julie Gunnigal was running for Maricopa County Attorney in 2020? If we had, remember that 70% that I mentioned? If we had boosted our percentage to maybe 5 percentage points more, and most importantly, we made sure that our voters completed their entire ballot, Julie Gunnigal would be the current Maricopa County Attorney. That just kind of shows you just how many votes and just how much of an influence that this particular district can have on elections. So it's going to be really important that we don't follow that historical trend where the party in the White House doesn't have a great turnout in the midterm elections. Look, can we impact the entire country? I like to think we could, but the thing is, we know we can impact LD11 and we can get folks to vote and be engaged, with all the, offices that are going to be on that ballot, because they're all important. So with that being said, we're going to turn over to public announcements. With announcements, you are limited to 1 minute. Once your minute's up, please stop talking. Otherwise, I'm just going to pick on Shams here. Shams is going to press the mute button, and that'll be that. So if you have an announcement, please, virtually raise your hand or unmute yourself and start talking. And like I said, you have 1 minute.
All right, Patrick, I would like to go.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, I'm out and about here and it could be noisy. I didn't bring my headphones. All right. Good evening, District 11 Democrats. For those of you who are new to our meetings, I am the elected treasurer of our LD11. My name is Shams Abdussamad. I'm running as a clean election candidate for Arizona House of Representatives. I spoke about my campaign at last month's meeting. I hope you had the opportunity to hear me or to view my website, shamsforaz.com. I discussed my priorities, which you can find on my website. So I'm not going to bore you with
30 seconds
or rhetoric. Today, I want to focus on the most important issue in this election, the attack on our democracy. This issue has been taken too lightly, and we must all be focused on not allowing these groups of extremists to destroy the dreams of freedom and equality for all, as promised by our US and Arizona state constitutions. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking that you vote. Again, my name is Shams Abdussamad. My website is shamsforaz.com. Thank you, and let's get out to vote.
All right, thank you, Shams.
I muted
Announcements. What's that?
I muted myself.
Well, I said you if anybody gets muted, it was Shams, but don't hold it against her because she's doing her job. Any other announcements?
Yes, hi, Patrick.
Michael, go ahead.
Okay. Hello, my name is Michael Butts. I'm running for House of Representatives for District 11. I've been a part of the district when I purchased my home in 2019, and I've always been one to work in public service jobs. First one being a police officer. I was a police officer for about 3 years, and I saw at the local level that there were problems in our society that could not be completely resolved at that jurisdictional level. So I did go back to school, finished my bachelor's at ASU, Hugh Downs School of Communications. I also have a master's degree in educational leadership. I taught for the last 5 years. 2 years of 12th grade and 3 years of 5th grade social studies. And I want to bring those experiences to our district. We've had very good leadership here in the past, and I want to continue that leadership capacity going forward. And our district has challenges, and we have a voice, and we need to have that at the Capitol continue going forward. And we need to have qualified, experienced leaders that can do that. Thank you. My
All right.
website is electmichaeldbutts.com.
All right. Thank you, Michael. All right. Next up is, I'm just going to, kind of give this person some props. Deborah Nardozzi, former LD chair was former LD 24, awesome human being. Even though you're awesome, I'm still going to give you a minute. So go for it.
Awesome people get 2 minutes, Patrick. Hi, everybody. My name is Deborah Nardozzi. I am former chair of a very blue district, but I am now a campaign manager for a 50-50 district, which is LD9. And the reason I am on here is I am begging. I'm begging for help, you guys. So basically what's happening is we are the only super competitive district at 50-50, which means we have as many Republicans as Democrats. And so no one's really working in our district because there's amazing Democratic primaries such as LD 11. I'm not asking you to do a thing before the primary is over. After the primary is over, whoever is the winner of the primary is gonna be your elected because you're so blue. Please come help us. Your electeds won't be able to pass anything unless our House members make it in LD9. So I beg of you, after your election is over, please come see me. My email address is in the chat.
All right. Thank you, Deborah. And she is right. We are in this together. So once we take care of our business in LD 11, we got, we're going to have to, help out some of our neighbors, as well to make sure that, we're, we have the Arizona that we need to have moving forward. All right. Any other announcements?
I have one. This is George Birchby.
Okay, go ahead, George.
Thanks, Patrick. First, thanks for having us here tonight. This is by far the best LD meeting I've ever been to. I'm a former county party chair from years back. So anyhow, I'm working with Janelle Cavato and need volunteers, desperately need volunteers. We have phone banking coming up. We're going to be starting this weekend, also canvases. So I'm going to put my information in the chat. You'll have my email address, my cell phone number. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to be able to get some of you folks to come and help us out. We're going to be using the predictive dialer.
30 seconds.
Be over at the Painters Hall, which is in the district up on 24th Street. And that is it. Let me post my information and there you go. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements?
Mr. Chair.
Mahogany, how you doing?
Good. Constable Kennedy here. You know what? We have some wonderful candidates on the ballot. Don't forget that as you receive your ballot, vote from the bottom up. We have school board. I am on the ballot as your constable. I execute anything that comes off the Justice of the Peace desk, and I do my best to bring services to our community. I was born here, I was raised here, I was educated here, and I'm raising my kids here. So everybody have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy July, stay hydrated, and I look to hopefully see everybody at meetings if we can start meeting soon.
All right,
Thank you,
thank you, Constable. And yeah, to that point, as long as like these COVID numbers don't go further through the roof, we're on track to start coming back in person. And don't hold me to this, I'm still trying to iron out a spot. We're looking at hopefully our September meeting being our in-person return. So we'll announce more information as we get closer to that date. So, all right. Any other announcements? Announcements going once. Okay, Ron, you know better than, you're not going to be able to get out of this meeting without saying something. So, Ron, I'm picking on you, man. You got what's the good word? Oh, you're still muted.
Thank you, Patrick. The good word, as I'm sitting here with my bib and eating my dinner, the good word is that LD11 is so good, so powerful, I just think you all are going to do a great job. And I'm just happy to contribute a little bit what I can. I sent a note to Sham and I made a contribution. Please check out my podcast at Turning Arizona Blue. I put the link in the chat and my Mule News. And we are all here to help you do whatever we can. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Ron. And thank you for the work that you do as well. Because I know you, even on top of the podcast, you do a lot of work to, really help all communities. So thank you for the work that you do. With that being said, thank you guys for spending some of your Wednesday with us. Hopefully you got a lot of good information about, candidates and things going on. Again, we're gonna be calling for, for volunteers for lots of different stuff. We've got a lot of work to do. So getting Arizona to a point where it is a community that, or a state or a community that is responsible to all folks, all citizens, all people who live here, work here, raise children here, is going to take work. And, we know that, we have the ideas, we have the people, we have the commitment to make that happen. But like I said, this is not going to just magically happen because we got heart. We got to put in that time and effort. And I look forward to doing that with each and every one of you guys. Have a good night. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And we will see you soon.